Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod review. Today, we're checking out a brand new, lore-friendly energy weapon known as the Photon Disruptor by Neeher. This is going to be another wonderful release by Neeher, so you know it's going to be top-notch quality with beautiful custom models and textures, and of course, some really awesome animations. And in this mod in particular, the animations are definitely a huge selling point. Now, some quick info about the weapon. The Photon Disruptor is intended to be an early Institute weapons platform, specifically being used in the game by Gen 1 and Gen 2 synths. This is supposed to be the precursor to the in-game Institute laser rifle. This particular weapon was actually specifically for use by synths. While players and human NPCs can wield this weapon, it is better in the hands of synths, and it actually has animations to reflect that. While again, players can use this thing and they have their own set of animations, synths will have a custom set that uses this weapon more efficiently and much faster, which I think is such a cool and neat idea. A weapon designed for the use of robots who have a little bit more freedom with their limb movement. Now, as far as the weapon functions, this is pretty much a standard laser rifle, though it does have a lot of modifications at the weapon's workbench that allow it to do a few more things than your typical vanilla laser rifle. As far as aesthetics are concerned, I really love the design of this thing. It is huge and bulky just like the other Institute weapons, but it has a totally different design than the typical boxy stuff we are used to. If you'd like to get your hands on this weapon, it is actually added to the leveled list and will start spawning very rarely on synths after level 19. Again, this is intended to be a precursor to the modern Institute laser rifle, so it will still show up, it's just a lot more rare. That being said, though, once you have picked this thing up for the first time, it will unlock a chemistry station recipe for you so that you can craft more of them. Now, since this thing is supposed to start spawning on synths, Neeher has actually implemented a contingency plan. If you already destroyed the Institute and there are no more synths in your game, this will automatically detect that if you've completed that part of the story, and this thing will be immediately craftable over at the chemistry station. Now, I think that covers most of the basics. Let's go ahead and start getting into the finer details of this weapon, starting off with its stats. Looking at the stat block here, you'll see we have some pretty interesting stuff. We've got a base damage of 18 energy damage. This thing uses fusion cells, has a fire rate of 66 in semi-automatic, though it does have fully automatic conversions. We have a range of 71, an accuracy of 77, a weight of only 4.4 pounds, despite this thing looking pretty massive, and a value of 60 caps. Overall, pretty balanced, even for how rare this weapon is. Now let's talk animations. This thing, of course, comes with its full suite of first-person animations, as well as third-person animations. And like I said earlier, even custom animations specifically for synths. Speaking of animations, much like Neeher's other mods, this mod does have a custom animation when you first pick up the weapon. Unlike Neeher's other mods though, this one is not a set spawn. This will play anytime you pick up the weapon for the first time, so be sure not to do it in the middle of combat. Now, really quick, I do want to mention a few of the optional files available for this mod. You do have an ESP version as well as an ESL version. We even have some 4K texture options, which is always a nice plus for those of you who can handle those high-res textures. On top of that, though, we even have some additional animation files. So in the default version of this mod, the players will use the regular human animations and synths will automatically use the synth animations. But there are two more optional files. One allows you to use player synth arms, which is essentially for anybody who is using a mod that adds prosthetics to your character, which is pretty neat. And then there's also an additional file for somebody who is fully playing as a synth. So there are a few mods that allow you to play as a synth character. And if you do that, you can download this and it will allow your player to use the synth animations as well. Now then, as we always do, let's start testing this weapon's ability to perform in combat, starting off with its accuracy. Now, I expect this weapon to do pretty well in terms of accuracy, but in its standard form, this thing has no sights, so we're really going to have to make sure that we're picking our shots very precisely here. So starting off with close range, we hit the target no problem. Then at medium range and long range, still pretty easy to hit all of those targets, so very nice. And there are a handful of sight options over at the weapons workbench as well. And hey, since we're already talking about it, let's show off some of those attachments over at the weapons workbench, starting off with the capacitor section. Everything in here is nice and organized. Starting off with our semi-automatic section, we have standard all the way up through overcharge, which gives us a maximum semi-auto damage of 46 compared to the standard 18. This is without perks though, so you can of course boost these damages a little bit more. And we also have a full auto section where we have standard at 19 all the way up through overcharged at 42. A nice little improvement there. For barrels, we have a whole lot of options as well. We have the standard barrel and the light barrel. There's actually a light version of every barrel and every stock, which will add this cool little skeletonized grip. So we have standard, standard light, extended, extended light, advanced and advanced light, advanced extended light, the advanced long, and the advanced long light barrel. I think that's everything there. Now then, for stocks, like I said, we have a handful of options and also some light versions. So we have the stockless light, the standard stock and the standard stock light, the simple stock and the simple stock light, the slim stock and the slim stock light, and the full stock, as well as a light version, and finally, the advanced stock and a light version as well. We do have a modifier section, which will add some little doodads to change your projectile up a little bit. None will obviously give you the regular old laser, but we do have a coil pack, which is a semi-auto only modification that will allow you to charge up your shots, which I think is pretty cool. We have a combustor, which will add a little bit of fire damage to the projectile. A splitter will make this thing function like a shotgun, similar to vanilla laser and plasma weapons. We have a radiation infuser, which will add a little bit of radiation damage. We have a plasmator, which will change this projectile to green and add some plasma effects to it. We have the energy repeater, which will vastly improve the fire rate on this thing. And then we have the RTG, the radioisotope thermoelectric generator, which is going to allow you to get a little bit more in the magazine. And finally, that leaves the sight section, where we have the option for no sights, some simple iron sights, an alternate iron sight, which is a nice little ring sight, glow sight versions of both of those iron sights, a reflex sight dot and circle, a short scope, a short night vision scope, a short recon scope, a long scope, long night vision, and long recon scope. And that is it for all of the attachments for this weapon. A nice bit of customization options. Now then, of course, we need to do a damage test. We'll be running 3 tests today using Deathclaws as our damage baseline. One of this weapon with no attachments and no perks, one with a fully upgraded semi-auto capacitor, and one with a fully upgraded full auto capacitor to see how they all stack up next to each other. So then, starting off with the base version of this weapon, let's see how it does. Ooh, and the answer is not very well. With no attachments and no perks, this thing does nearly no damage, though Deathclaws do have a pretty high energy resistance. We are 3 fusion cells in, and a few more takes it down. It was really more about 3 mags. We actually started at 21 rounds on the first magazine, so that's my bad. So 26 times 3, about 78-ish shots later, and the Deathclaw is down. This does use fusion cells though, and they are pretty common ammunitions, but it's still quite a bit. Let's see if we can improve that with a fully upgraded semi-auto version. This does have the charging modifier as well. That charging modifier does take a little bit of time, but it definitely heavily increases the damage per shot, allowing us to take down this Deathclaw in much less rounds using only 8 shots total. Pretty good. A nice little improvement there, but let's see how this thing does in full auto. And the answer is much, much better. While it technically did use more ammo, it was a whole lot faster and just easier in general, and it'll probably be the easiest one to use in combat. So yeah, guys, that is the Photon Disruptor. Of course, another beautiful weapon by Neeher. As always, their work is of the utmost quality, so I highly recommend you check this one out. If you want to, it'll be linked down in the description below. Additionally, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to drop a rating, it really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing if you haven't already for more videos just like this. Big shout out to all of my patrons for supporting every single video, and of course a very special thank you to Avian4, Captain Chaos, Freedom, Glasma, Helljumper, Indecisive Wolf, Kid Hades, Cushy, Logan Rig Maiden, Madly Matt, Microhan, Moonlit Gamer, Oscar Scott, Sterling, Steven, Timmy76, Youth Arceve, and Voider for joining that Tier 3 Patreon membership. If you'd like to support the channel over on Patreon, you can do so down in the description below, but it is completely optional. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Peace!